Hey, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, whoever you are, wherever you are. This is yours truly, the Grand Queen coming at you. Welcome to, guess what? Guess where? Guess what? Welcome to the Just Stop It Show. Got a good one for you tonight. Yes, and we're still honoring Women's History Month. And tonight we're talking about brain injury and women's mental health. It matters. You matter, we matter. So yeah, here we are tonight, and it's gonna be with you for a few minutes, yes, to see where it's at. Hope you had a good day. If not, don't worry about it. It's another day that will come again, hopefully, and that day will be better for you, me, and all of us. So yeah, tonight again, we want to bring awareness to women's brain injuries. They're underdiagnosed. Uh, Domestic violence, you know, awareness to, I want to bring that awareness to domestic violence and trauma and postpartum. Those are a part of some of the problems, which equals what? Trauma, brain injury. Trauma, brain injury risk symptoms are dismissed as attitude. Can you imagine? Trauma, brain injuries are dismissed as attitude. That's crazy. That is really crazy. Uh, So yeah, we're going to talk about that tonight. How do we take care of each other? Bottom line is, how do we take care of each other? This is more than an issue. We're not carrying these injuries in silence. Sometimes the doctors miss it, families miss it and ignore it, and systems miss it and dismiss it. Well, here we are tonight. We're not gonna miss a thing, hopefully. And if we do, we're gonna get to it, get with it, get through it. So yeah, many times women are disproportionately affected by brain injuries, not because they're fragile so much, but because the systems around them are fragile and sometimes inundated with information that's just not fitted for their particular situation. Tonight, we're just talking about how women's brain injuries are underdiagnosed, misdiagnosed, or disproportionately affected. They're disproportionately affected by brain injuries. Again, not because they're fragile, right? And another issue, trauma postpartum. I just spoke about that. Domestic violence, sports, trauma postpartum, vulnerabilities. And there are four different roads, but it's the same destination. Although there are four different aspects, the same destination, brain injury. So yeah, that's what it's about. How we are represented as well. How does the science help us? How does the mathematics help us? How does the math stem cells actually, how does science, technology, and engineering and math, how does that help support the, the aspects? How does that change the underdiagnosed? How does that change the underdiagnosis of how women are disproportionately affected by brain injuries through domestic violence, right? Uh, through trauma, which is a combination, domestic violence, you're traumatized. You could be in a toxic relationship that has a combination of things. The spouse is narcissistic, the spouse is violent, the spouse is mentally ill. It's a combination of things that affect a woman's, you know, not just her mental health, but brain injury. If she has been accosted, if she has been if she has been brutalized continually every day, as well as verbally abused, it can affect her brain, right? So again, how do we take care of each other? That's what it's about. How do women and men? How does the community of people help women? How do they help us to help us to help you help us take care of each other? I'm just saying. Hmm, that's a tongue twister, but let's go. So yeah, what needs to happen is okay. You always got to bring in the legislature. You always got to talk about funding and things like that. Where's the money coming from? I'm just saying, where's the money train and where's it coming from and how? Sometimes we have to interrupt the money train based upon what's attached and where the money train is going. Sometimes we have to interrupt that money train and let them know we're funding, uh, where actually the focus for funding should remain, where the focus of funding should be, such as the need for housing, vocational training, educational training, caregiver support, respite care, because sometimes these things go into a crisis mode that it's like a crisis mode of no return. Um, Sometimes women are involved in hazing. Uh, I hear somebody saying like, "Oh, these women be involved in hazing. Isn't that a male thing?" No. Many times it could be something that has happened to the woman. Hazing could have happened to the woman, to the female in a gang. It could be a gang initiation. It could be a fraternity initiation. I'm just saying, this thing, we're talking about in higher ed, fraternity. When we talk about community, talking about a gang initiation. Women are subjected to uh, hazing as a part of an initiation into a gang. There's all sorts of female gangs now. Just got to be aware of how these things affect the woman's brain and how they affect women in higher ed and fraternity, hazing. That's what it's about. Some people probably have big difference like, what does hazing have to do? What does that have to do with gang related? It's connected. We're talking about mental health. We're talking about brain injuries here. We're talking about the system around them. People normalize things that is detrimental to life itself. So, connecting hazing trauma to brain injury risk and long-term emotional impact, that part, it's a connection because even though women are subjected to hazing as an initiation in a gang versus women who are subjected to hazing in a fraternity in college, for example, or even in high school, young women are subjected to hazing in high school, as well as young men are subjected to hazing. But we're talking about women and the long-term impact. We're talking about long-term impact on the brain and exploring. We want to explore the factors and find out and just let them know that it's not okay. It's not okay to stay that way. That it should not ever, ever be acceptable. It should not be acceptable and it should not be accepted as normal. It is not normal to get your head busted up just to get in and to fit in to a fraternity, just to get in and fit into something that's trendy or you believe it will help you to, I don't know, it'll help you status quo or something. There's a whole bunch of variables to that, and we'll talk about that another day. I'm just saying. So yeah, so we want to talk about the pivot point. What happens when the system fails to intervene for our young women who are exposed to this type of behavior? What happens when the families don't support? What happens when the families do support, but their advocacy, you know, they support through advocating by advocating, and what happens when the advocacy falls on deaf ear? What happened? As Ricky Ricardo used to say, what happened? What happened? What happened? And what happens when trauma becomes normalized? That part, trauma should never be normalized. Sometimes you go to the doctor. I'm just saying because it's happened to me. And it happens to women all the time. Uh, you go to the doctor, you tell them your symptoms, you're tired, you're exhausted. When you're a week, okay, let me just clarify myself. Trauma. When you're traumatized, many times when you go to the doctor, you dismiss, you just feel like just like God, doctor just what the bus and throws you under the bus. I'm just saying, because here you are describing how you feel about something. You're traumatized by bad relationship, or you're traumatized by a death of your loved one. You're traumatized by something, or an accident. I had a bus accident a few years ago. I'm just saying, I was traumatized, child. And my parents said, child, I was just, it affected my whole performance, because at the time I was a college adjunct and had just like, hadn't been too long in depth of that career. I was in depth in that part of my career as an educator. I was previously a dean of elementary and high school, elementary and middle school, with working with a phenomenal administration. I was a teacher uh, of elementary and early childhood teacher. I mean, but that was before I went into higher ed. However, when I got into higher ed, I felt so seriously comfortable. Like, hey, this is my niche. I'm good. I'm straight. I'm wonderful. That was my orange cushion. I'm just saying. And then all of a sudden, one day I had a bus accident. Everything went south. My emotional self, my body, everything changed. And I was like, God, I was traumatized. Fortunately, thank God I didn't have any brain injury, because I did have a concussion. But I did test I did have a, what do you call it, a CAT scan, and I did have some MRIs. I had a bunch of stuff. Just felt like I was under the microscope all the time. But it was okay. It just changed again everything. However, you just want to be careful. You don't know what can happen from day to day when it comes to trauma. Then I went on to experience some other stuff, like when the emotional trauma of when a loved one is going through and you witness it, can also traumatize you as well, especially if it has to do with mental health. The emotional stuff, like I said, they go through emotionally, physically, socially, financially. Everything affects it. Just like something happened to you physically, it is all a part of that trauma thing, because the body is emotionally injured, could be physically injured, spiritually injured, financially injured. I'm just saying, family. So yeah, again, and you go to the doctor. Yeah, I just went into just a bunch of examples. As oh, it's okay. This is the Just Stop It show. So we just stop and get to it, get through it, get with it, on reality. This is a safe space to say, hey, this is what it, this is what it is, and this is the impact, and this is the solution. We're about problem solving here. So sometimes you need a story. Sometimes you need a story, and that story needs to be shared, and shared collectively. You will find a solution. The solution is always there, always. It just may take some time among witnesses to determine exactly what the solution is. So it's simple, not basic. So yeah, sometimes going to the doctors can dismiss your symptoms, and sometimes they are on a heated rush when you first get in there, because they're like looking at you like you're a stat, like you're a number anyway. Like, hurry up. I got other patients to see. Listen, player, the reason why you got other patients to see is because of me. He, they, we, it, everybody. That's the reason why you have other patients to see. So don't be trying, as Cedric said, don't be trying to rush me. Cedric, the entertainer, would say. Cedric, don't be trying to rush me. So yeah, you're there to get clarity as to what's happening to you. So yeah, with that, your emotional intelligence, what do you do? Because, brain injury, your emotional intelligence is at risk. And the brain is one of the most beautiful organs ever. It's one of the most beautiful organs of your body, um, in your body, and it should be, treated as equally as important as the rest of your body. So what would you do? What would you do if this happened, if the system failed you? We're not frail. We're talking about our women. We're not as frail as people think we are. We're not as thin-skinned as people think we are. We are phenomenal people. And we help our men, fathers, dads, sons, friends, brothers. We help them to be phenomenal too, because that's balance. But however, who is representing us to bring that balance? How do we change? We're not trying to change the wheel, but how do we navigate through the system and change the laws that are supposed to help protect us? I'm just saying, how do we create uh, conversations with our medical professionals to help, to help bring more awareness to them, to let them know it's not okay, to stop normalizing it and dismissing it, because hey, it makes a difference when it's in real time. It makes a difference when we're seen and heard. That, I posted a video on TikTok. A Grand Queen, you'll see it. It almost looks like it's black, but it's called The Sound of Healing. The background looks very dark. You can go to TikTok at Grand Queen, GRANQUEEN, Grand Queen at TikTok. And the name of the short reel is called The Sound of Healing. And the caption says, "Close your eyes, listen to the water," because it is actually a video with the sound of the creek, with the sound of a creek that is like a few hundred yards away from my home. And it's so spectacular. It's so amazing to hear in the day. In the daytime, it is just it's beautiful. However, at nighttime, it's a different sound because you really can hear the rushing, the roar, should I say, of the water flowing. So, gosh, it's so peaceful. It's peaceful. It's kind of eerie. It's surreal. It's so many things. It just makes you feel like, to me, like closer to God. Like you just out there talking to God. I'm just saying God is talking to you. Just saying, that's just how I feel about it. And it's quiet. Everything is quiet in the night. And the only night sound that you might hear, maybe a little sound, little coyotes in them in the backwoods and stuff like that. But mostly you'll hear the roaring sound of the creek, how it moves and of the sort. So many women, even though you can't see it because it's pretty dark, unless you have flashlights and stuff like that, you know, you would have to navigate with a flashlight to go down to the creek at nighttime. Some people go down there and fish, I guess, at night. They have the right tools. So we're talking about the right tools to navigate brain injury, to navigate emotional injuries. This is what we're about. And to just stop it, movement. We're talking about navigating the invisible path of brain injury recovery and the complexities of mental health. Hello. And women. The world, sometimes the world feels so loud, and it is loud as all get out. Some people believe if they ain't loud, life ain't happening. Sometimes you just need to get your little self quiet so you can hear things differently. You understand? If you were ever to visit a body of water or a creek or an ocean or the beach, nighttime is it's a whole different run. Like I said, it's quiet, but the only sound you'll hear will be the sound of the water. And sometimes that's how life sounds, like it's loud, overwhelming. That's the only thing you hear because everything hurts. The trauma hurts. And all you can hear and feel is pain. However, because there's something going on in your brain has been injured, your emotional intelligence has been injured, and it's overwhelming and isolating. Believe me, you are not alone in this. God is always with us. I feel somebody saying, girl, why are you always on the God tip? Yes, because He is the author and finisher of everything created for us, in us, about us. We're always in His best interest. Some people believe God is, well, I mean, He's a man, whatever. I'm talking about what He does. I'm talking about, I mean, if that's what you believe, no problem. The concern is how to gravitate towards answers, how to understand what's being communicated to you, to determine what you're observing, to determine the answers, to determine the tools that you need to get through things. So, and God always makes a way. He talks to us through nature. He talks to us through uh, so many different examples. People, animals, even little animals. Those are his little antics anyway, and they funny as all get out sometimes. It's like the story I shared with y'all on TikTok. Um, when a couple of foxes stole my little doormat. It went missing during the winter for like, come on, who is gonna steal my little doormat? Nobody had time to stop by my house and pick up a doormat and thief a doormat. However, it wasn't a human thief. It was some couple of little crazy, a couple of little, maybe I have to say, foxes who was trying to warm their den for their family. It happens because they pick up clothes and anything else that's left inside your house just to keep their place warm. I ain't mad at it. I hope it did him justice. I hope it did him well. 'Cause I bought another one. Anyway, I'm just saying how we are connected, how signs, wonders, and miracles are communicated to us, based upon we just have to engage based upon our response. And He only needs us to respond. That's all. It's simple. And whether we acknowledge Him or not, He's still going to talk to us. Whether we say thank you, God, or not, He's going to talk to us. However, and it's going to be more in depth when we acknowledge who He is. When we acknowledge that God is speaking. When we acknowledge the Creator, and understand too that He works with our creativity as well. Don't just roll up on you willy nilly and say, hey, do this, do that. Mm-mm. It's very gentle, very kind. And the techniques are very gentle, very kind, and intelligent. And intelligent through math, science, technology, engineering, and more. So, the numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. Pay attention to the science, which is the mathematical aspect of it, where the stats and stuff. Pay attention to those things and then when you put all the information together, what do you have? Tools for healing, tools for living well and living long. I'm just saying. So just like, just even using the body of water such as the creek, the sounds of the creek, the night sounds, because day and night is different. Sometimes it's like that with our lives. Our lives sometimes look like we're passing through the whole night lights. And we just passing through the whole night time of life and day will never come. It will come. You will see your way. You just have to listen. The nighttime is for you to listen because it's the most quietest aspect of time itself. So when the nighttime of your life is happening, listen. Ask God to teach you how to listen. and change your attitude. That part, it matters. So now, again, if the world feels loud and overwhelming and isolating, it's the rhythm of life that will take over. Just like the rhythm of the woods, it takes over for the little animals and them for them to get comfortable at night. They don't run around all day long doing what they do, doing what they got to do as animals. And at nighttime, they got to hunker down and be like, hey, okay, little bears and them, they over there in the cave. Little foxes and them, they somewhere in their little den. That's in the winter. You know, each season they live differently. And and as humans, we also operate differently during each season. So those seasons of our lives, we have to understand what's happening to us. We have to understand, particularly if we're going through, if we are affected by brain injury, by trauma, that part. Focus on the trauma. Focus on if you are traumatized by a brain injury, if you've been traumatized by a violent relationship, right? Uh, again, you know, many women have been underdiagnosed because domestic violence plus trauma plus postpartum, if you're also have had a baby, had a child, that is trauma. That is trauma based injury. And, you know, you're at risk. And sometimes you are dismissed. It's dismissed as an attitude. Can you imagine? It's dismissed as an attitude. That's ridiculous. Don't accept it. Don't accept it as normal. It is not normal. It is not normal at all, right? It's not normal at all. You're vulnerable. Those are four different roads to brain injury, domestic violence, trauma, postpartum, right? Those sports, domestic violence, sports, trauma, postpartum, vulnerability. Four different horrible roads, same destination, brain injury. Yeah, so here we are. So the solution is to get up in legislature space and find out how are they funding? What's the funding? What are they budgeting in for programs that address domestic violence, that address um, brain injury among the sports world? You know, what are they doing? What are they doing about that? So yeah, you know, however, I encourage you, take this with you this week. Just like the woods, like the rhythm in the woods takes over, recovery isn't always a loud victory. You know, recovery, the creek is sort of like a recovery, the sound of the creek, sort of like uh, a hope. It shows you that the woods is recovering, that everything is okay at night. Here, the flow of the water, especially in the winter. Let me tell you, if you don't hear the creek, the sound of the creek roaring in the winter, and it's dead winter, that means something is going on. If it's frozen and you don't hear it, that's a problem. That means in your house, you're gonna have some problems with your pipes. Pipes gonna freeze, and there's some steps you need to take. So pay attention to the signs. You know, the signs are always steady as well. It's never no one shot. The signs are always steady, and the flow is always persistent. And showing up for yourself, showing up for you in that persistence, in that steady, persistent flow, showing up for you in the stillness, in the nighttime of your life. I'm just saying, keep showing up, keep showing up, keep showing up. by studying, keep showing up by being persistent against domestic violence if things is against trauma and these things have traumatized you, these things have affected your brain. Keep showing up by getting tools of empowerment because tools of empowerment equals healing. Tools of empowerment equals healing. Support equals healing. And sometimes you might get people outside of your situation. 9 times out of 10, you're gonna get like so many phenomenal people outside of your situation that will support you. Not to say that family doesn't love you. There's so much a family can do. They are empowered to do what's necessary on the inside. And God comes along, He gives you those who are empowered to do what's necessary on the outside of the situation. So you've got to handle things on the inside of the situation and on the outside of the situation, which will make you heal in and out. It will make you heal within and without. You've got to heal inside and out. So yeah, so the sound of a healing mind, so just continue to picture the sound of the creek. That is the sound of your mind healing. That is the sound of your mind flowing like a river, flowing like a river, flowing. As the scriptures, as Psalm 23 say, He leads me beside still waters. That's the sound of a creek. It might be roaring, but it's flowing into another body of water that is quiet. In the daytime, it's kind of quiet. You can hear it, but it's not as loud as it is at night. So your night will change. Your nightlife will change from a roaring sound to a quiet, level, sweet victory, right? Just stay present. Stay present. Stay present. And let God's word flow so you can flow. Be persistent in your flow. Be persistent as you continue to show up for yourself. Because when you are part of domestic violence, when you are victimized, you have to learn the tools and the warfare, because it's warfare. You have to learn the tools and the warfare on how to stand so others can help stand up for you. Because how can two walk together except they agree? And then the scripture also says, come out from among them and be separated. You're already separated, particularly those who break the covenant with their loved ones. This could be men or women who are a part of domestic violence or traumatized. Men and women go through it. It's just not a lot is being said concerning the men. I know some men who have been traumatized by their spouses, their partners, and they normalized it. They didn't even consider it. They didn't even consider that their wife was traumatizing them, that their wife was victimizing them. They just believed it was a normal aspect of the marriage, but it was a poor and dangerous relationship. So these are some of the things that we will, as the sound of the creek, we will recover and just continue to picture yourself. Listen, just listen. Picture yourself in recovery. Picture yourself walking in peace and no longer walking in pieces. You are not Humpty Dumpty. My grandmother preached the message like that. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. She said, God will put you back together. Now we all know, which I thought was just phenomenal. We all know that an egg, because Humpty Dumpty, you know, is a metaphor anyway, but it's an egg. Sitting on the wall, I mean, come on the wall, you know it's gonna fall. It's fragile. So you cannot put an egg back together. We know once you drop it, it's over. You can only scoop it up. And that's how we are sometimes. This is what trauma does to us. This is what trauma plus postpartum, uh, which equals what? Trauma base, trauma brain injury, rather. This is what happens to women, and it should not be normalized. We are not uh, Humpty Dumpty ran out of egg, albeit we are fragile because our spirit as women, our feminine energy, our ability to communicate, we are we are stronger than we think. We are strong as 10 men, especially firstborn, uh emotionally. We're talking about women are strong emotionally. They can take the brunt of things that men cannot take because of their emotional strength. So, and then many times they spend their lives having have to supplement relationships or missing pieces in a relationship within the family dynamics because dads are missing, or somebody's missing, a mom is missing, or people just don't play their part, or again, it's bad relationships, poor leadership, and stuff like that. So that's what firstborns do, firstborn women. And then what we're talking about, women's health, brain injury, mental health. This is women's history. And we are here to get to it, get through it, and find a way. This brain injury, the sound of the brain, just like the creek, is flowing all night loudly, much louder than the day, finding its way back. It's just finding its way back. It's flowing like that crazy roaring, crazy sound loudly all night. But in the day, it calms down a little bit. It's still flowing, but it's not as, you know, as the night. So your brain, our brain as women, when we've been traumatized, we want to we want to help our brain to find its way back to normal, to actually best way it can operate, find its way back to the new way your brain should operate for you when you pass through trauma and postpartum and talk about menopause, postmenopausal women. You talk about that one is we talked about that already. That's another traumatizing situation, particularly if you're going through domestic violence. You're going through the domestic violence and postmenopause. Oh my God, you are. It's just like you are that roaring creek all day because you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to figure out your destination. Is it you? You know how they say, it ain't nothing gonna happen over here. It's gonna be either you or me, and it ain't gonna be me. That's how you feel when you're dealing with immature, reckless, dangerously harmful, narcissistic, psychotic, could be, Alzheimer's, dementia. I'm talking about for aging women and men in a bad relationship. They're trauma bonded. Once they break out of that, child, hmm, because they are moving from the Humpty Dumpty phase into becoming like a hard boiled egg. So when you break the shell of a hard boiled egg, what's in it? Hard boiled egg, something you could eat, something you could do something with. Make a salad, something. Make a devil egg, something. you turn it to that hard boiled egg. You're no longer useless as seen in the eyes of your partner. You're no longer nothing and nobody. You're no longer invisible. You are seen, you are heard. You are phenomenal. And you shed off all of that, all those labels that you were traumatized and wrapped up in. Child, I tell you, you pretty much like Lazarus when Jesus told Lazarus when he hung out a few days before he saw Lazarus, he was like, yeah. When he got there, Mary and Martha, they was, the two sisters. One of them, she had a little attitude problem. So see, the attitude really matters. But the other one, she was like, I'm good. I'm glad he's here. Let me just go chill out, sit down, and listen to what he got to say. We know our brother's dead, and we are devastated by it. But let's hear what God says about it. You know, and other sister, she was like, this girl ain't even helped me prepare for the funeral and everything. I'm cooking up all these people about to come in and help us to, help us to mourn and stuff. I got all these things I got to do. It wasn't about that. It was about the level that Christ wanted to take them to redeem them from their sorrow. It was about redemption. That's a redemption story. To exchange your sorrow, your hurt, your pain, your trauma, your brain injury, your physical, your emotional self that's been ripped to shreds down to the lowest common denominator that you can't even determine what it is anymore. Sometimes when you're traumatized and beat down so much, you can't even feel anymore. And God has to come along and just reevaluate in your life, help you to reevaluate your life and restore your feelings so you can see what you can't feel and so you can feel what you can't see. This is yours truly, the Grand Queen, coming at you at Just Stop It Show. And listen, I'll be back with you. Please go to J Tire Form 1, just us at YouTube. Again, J Tire Form 1, JTIRE, the number 1 at YouTube. And you'll see some more amazing short stories, and you'll see more reels on uh, on Women's History Month and more. This is an ongoing movement, and we are here to support and bring awareness. This is a safe space and a safe place. Um, with families, caregivers, veterans, and rural women and city. We're talking about rural, city, global, can gather, learn, and heal. But we are not a medical advisory board, right? Um, so, please take that with you. Please share, like among your family, friends, community. We really want to be more of a community umbrella with others and get other people in, uh, so we can learn, heal collectively. It's too hard to do it by yourself. You can. You can go off the grid and do it. Say it's impossible, you can. But it's better together. It's so much better together during the healing and sharing. Sharing, once you share an initial conversation, oh my God, you won't believe the triggers, the miracles. It's like the domino effect that will follow. Miracles just things that you make happen, things that you make happen with the right people, the right time. And be patient with yourself. Be patient and be glad, be thankful, be grateful for everything that God empowers you with and in. Because many things you cannot do yourself. And you already know it because you probably somewhere thinking right now, like, what am I going to do? You can't do it by yourself. So just acknowledge and become accountable for what you need to do, and everything else will flow like the creek. It will flow and change in the morning of your life. Your morning will change to the good morning, and you'll have better days ahead. Live well, live happily, and joy. I pray that you find joy out of everything else. Remain constant and learn how to move through the dark. I'm just saying, learn how to move. Go to my page, Grand Queen, on TikTok, and see, like, and share my reels there. Those are reels of support. And please share more valid support with the Just Stop It movement and the Pit Stop. Pit Stop is our mental health check-in on Monday nights. We would just fall back and we just chill out a little bit, talk about, whatever. Um, it's more of a time to come through and share a safe space and talk about the things that maybe we need to just be stimulated about to bring more awareness to. Even if please pass through on Mondays at the pit stop with some fun things to do, things that will bring healing and restoration to our mental health, our wellness overall. We need to have some fun. That's what it's about, right? So, again, peace, love, and joy. And remember to stay present in your silent battle. Stay present in the silent battle because there is a physical toll. There is a physical toll. So, get some help in that silent battle. But remember the roar of the creek. That is your brain coming back to where it belongs. That is your mind and your heart being present. Peace, love, and joy.